Okay, this is a quick tutorial on hot wiring a foam wing. This is actually the foam wing that I am doing a build on RC groups. It's basically gives you, if you use the full dimensions, it gives you a 52-inch flying wing. Real stable, super light because it's using EPS. A lot of people are afraid of EPS because it crumbles and all kinds of stuff. If you hot wire it, it cuts fine. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. But to the basics, I start out with a 16-inch by 48-inch piece of foam. From each opposite corner, I measure out 3 inches, 27 inches, and 30 inches. And then I do the same thing over here, 3, 27, and 30. And then you're going to take those points, measure across at your 27-inch mark, and going out 14 inches. That's going to be your pivot point for your first angle here. And you're just going to, at that 14-inch mark, rotate it over, line it up with the 30-inch mark that you just measured, and draw a line. That's the basics of this section of how to get the angle for your tip. And then for the root, you're just going to take from the base here, that 3-inch mark, and go 14 inches up again. And then that'll give you that angle and that angle right there. You do the same thing for the opposite side, and then for the actual leading edge that we're going to be cutting it in half to make it easier to hot wire, you're just going to measure 14 inches down one end, 14 inches down the other end, opposite way. So this is your one wing, this is your other wing. So you're going to measure from the back of the wing to the tip 14 inches, back of the wing to the tip 14 inches. I have a little drawing up that I'll be posting with this that shows the actual dimensions if you didn't catch anything. Then I simply just connect those two 14-inch points and draw a line. That's it. That's what I use to do my hot wire on, or my template. Because my hot wire is not quite big enough to be able to cut a full 48-inch section without taking up the whole garage, I cut them down to a manageable size first. And it's very simple. I just use 2 blocks underneath. You want to make sure there's space for your wire to cut through. And you get your hot wire out here. It's actually easier to get it out first. And put your foam in there. I just use the blocks in the center because it actually lets the foam, it keeps it off, but it also lets it flex so that it'll cut all the way through. And all I do is line it up, make sure it's good, turn my hot wire on, line up again, and cut it. This is just a rough cut. You don't have to worry about being too precise on it because you're just trying to get it in half. Then from there, you're going to cut the root cord here. I'm going to grab the other one so it's easier to cut. So your root cord, you want to make sure it's square. So we actually use a little square device like this. And you line it up with the leading edge. If you have a real steady hand, you can actually follow the point of the foam down. But it's much easier just to have some sort of guide. So I turn the hot wire on, line up the wire, and then twist the wing until the line lines up with my hot wire. And simply cut down it. And that's that one. Turn it around, do the same thing for the other. That's your main core. You'll do the same thing for the other side. And then you'll want to clear a table out. So you can lay them out. I have a template here on the table already measured out to give me the proper angle and distance. All you simply do is just line it up with where you want to cut, and make sure that your trailing edge and leading edge match up. If you need to move in more to get them to match, so the angle matches, that's all you do. So I'm going to move mine back to my marked point here. And it helps out to mark it and measure it because you're going to have to do a reverse of this. You're going to take your template, which is, I cut mine out of wood. A lot of people say not to use wood because it burns and things like that. I actually use a really fine sandpaper to make it nice and polished so that it slides real easy. And then I just use basic screwdrivers. I have holes in the end just to hold it in place. Make sure everything looks good still. Get the wire out from underneath there. I'm actually going to move back a little bit because my angle is off. There it is. That's actually what it was. Move back up here. Okay, once you've measured everything out, you want to make sure to have weight behind it. So we use these glass blocks again. Make sure it has plenty of weight. I mean, don't worry about crushing the foam. I've had probably 80-90 pounds on top of this holding it in place. When I do bigger wings, you need more weight because you're pulling on it quite a bit more. And then easiest ways to start from the trailing edge. I actually cut my trailing edge off so that when I add my aileron on, it completes the wing airfoil. But once you turn on your hot wire, I do a test cut, make sure it's hot, and then move around the template. You don't want to go too fast because you don't want your wire to get bent. You want to make sure that the wing tip is moving really well. This is where when you get near the very leading edge of the wing, you want to slow down to let it roll over and then move back. This is where I usually hold the template because it is a little loose now from being cut out on the top. So I hold it just to make sure it doesn't move. This is the MH45 airfoil. So it's a pretty easy one to cut. There are some that get a little more intricate that make it real difficult to cut. So the more fancy you get on an airfoil, the harder it is. And you want to pull straight out when you get to the end. Make sure it doesn't do anything. And you don't want to pull up or down because it's still cutting. From there, simply pull it out. If everything worked right, you have an airfoil. So now you can laminate it, do whatever you want. You can sand it down if it's still a little rough. But that's it. This one gives you a 15-inch wing cord, or root cord, and roughly, I believe it's a 7.5-inch, 6.5-inch tip cord at the measurements that I did. You can cut it in if you want a smaller wing. I prefer the 40 to 45-inch wingspan because it's easier to move around in standard cars and things. But that's it. That's cutting a hot wire wing core. All you have to do is just duplicate it to the other one and you're done. When you're duplicating, make sure to take your template and reverse it when you're cutting the second one. or else it will give you two of the same wings. Then you'll line up the whole thing again, cut your second one, and you're done.